Welcome to the Fantasy Football Units podcast. I'm your host, Alex Bruno, here with Jordan Hudson. How you doing today, Jordan?
I'm actually kind of bummed this week. All the games getting postponed, everybody getting COVID. I mean, everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely not looking good so far in the 2020 season.
No, Cam had to go mess up freaking the New England Chiefs game. I was looking so forward to that game this week. All those points coming from that game.
Yeah, they're saying they're trying for Monday or Tuesday, but I'm not.
That's what they said about the other game, so I have zero faith in that right now.
Yeah, well, I think maybe if it's just Cam, I think that's what they're trying to find out.
Belichick will somehow get them to not start. I don't have my starting quarterback. We can't play.
Right, but, I mean, before he had faith in his backup.
I think that was just to Belichick's kind of like Pete Carroll in that sense, where he's not going to tell you the truth because he's not going to give his opponent any type of competitive advantage whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah. Moving on with news other than that.
Yeah, breaking into the news with that.
Yeah. Deebo Samuel's looking to make a season debut this Sunday against the Eagles.
Yeah, Shanahan said he's not going to have a normal role out there, though. So I'm thinking at best, like, 60% of the snaps, but probably closer to 40-45.
How many targets do you think he gets?
3, 4. If he's out on the field for 60%, maybe 5, but that's a stretch to me. But I've been way more surprised by NFL players in the past. Mm-hmm. So we'll just have to see on Sunday. But my prediction, 4 targets for 30 yards.
Okay. Chris Godwin and Leonard Fournette are ruled out for the Bucs against the Chargers.
Let's see. Well, I would never own Fournette. It's going to be another Mike Evans week, basically. That's all that really could come of this.
The 2 reception, 2 yard, 2 touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, Rojo's just probably going to get fed a little bit more. Right. You could see Scotty Miller get 7-8 targets again. You could see O.J. Howard. I mean, Gronk got like 5 targets last week. That could happen again. Who knows? That Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense is just way too much to keep up with right now.
Right.
But we have to for you guys out there.
Right. Julio Jones looking to play Monday night against the Packers.
Yeah, I think Ridley's on that list too. They're both kind of like questionable possible game time decisions right now. I think they're more just questionable. I know Ridley's like streaming to playing on Monday, but we'll have to keep our ear out, keep our ear to the ground tomorrow and see what everybody's saying, basically.
Yeah, same with Devontae Adams becoming a game time decision also for Monday.
Yes, when you have somebody that's for a game time decision on Monday, it's unless you have a player that's playing in the Sunday night game and you can kind of take that risk, see how you do in the afternoon, see how many points you're up. But my best advice is to just go ahead and pick somebody else, just punt Adams this week. There's no sense in taking that risk. Like, okay, cool, if he plays, yeah, you do get 20 points. But if he doesn't play, you got a big 0. And depending on your league, you could get punished for starting a player who's not playing. Mm-hmm. So it's not worth the risk to me, especially only in week 4. I mean, we still have 9 weeks to go after this week till the playoffs. It's not worth it this early in the season. You don't know if you're going to make the playoffs or not yet. Whoever's 3-0 right now could lose their next few games, and whoever's 0-3 could win their next few. Mm-hmm. It's fantasy football, people. Like, do not think that you've already won just because you're undefeated or you have the most points. No, don't.
Yeah, anything definitely could happen, obviously.
It's already happening. It's 2020. If anything's going to happen, it's going to happen this year.
Mm-hmm. DeAndre Hopkins, questionable for Sunday against Carolina with the ankle injury. It's also a game-time decision.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kirk's questionable, too. I don't know what Fitz's status is right now. I mean, all that really means is that you're going to see a lot more Kenyon Drake and a lot more Kyler Murray running the ball, most likely. We could see him run the ball 10, 12 times this week. Drake could run the ball 20 times, and Drake could end up with a lot of those targets. You could see Dan Arnold come out of nowhere and get 6 targets. Cliff Kingsbury's always got something up his sleeve, so I'm not really too much worried about that, especially if like I'm an Arizona fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely not worried if I'm the Kyler Murray owner. He'll do fine on his own.
Yeah,
He could
but
just be out there with a bunch of linemen, and he'd figure out a way to put up 30 fantasy points a game.
as far as DeAndre Hopkins owners, hopefully you have a backup to throw in there if it comes
Yeah.
down to it.
I mean, most likely if you drafted Hopkins, you didn't draft Kirk, but regardless, both of them might not be playing this Sunday.
Terry McLaurin also a game time decision with a thigh injury against the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, they really need McLaurin for this game, or it's going to get really ugly really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And with him being out, Haskins is not reliable. Doesn't matter who he's throwing to. Like, not even Logan Thomas. I don't even think he's a reliable target right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm punting everybody from that Washington offense and probably starting everybody that's in that Ravens running back core. 'Cause
Everybody?
I think well, not everybody, but I think it's going to be a track meet for them, essentially.
Who do you think is the more successful?
Ingram.
Okay, I can see that.
He's getting the most carries.
Yeah.
Like unless they go up a lot and they decide to throw Dobbins out there, but
or Edwards.
I mean, Dobbins doesn't even have 10 carries yet this year, so
Well, I think Ingram has only had 10 carries once so far.
yeah, once in one game. Dobbins hasn't had more than 10 hasn't had 10 carries the whole season. He's got 1 carry in one game, 2 carries in the other game, and then I think 6 in his first game. So they're not really. The man's only out there about 25% of the time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Moving on, we have a new topic for you guys. It's players to avoid and players to start. Beginning, I will go with Daniel Jones as a player to avoid.
Okay.
After an unimpressive week 2 and week 3, Jones will be in trouble once again going into a Los Angeles Rams matchup on Sunday. With the Giants running back committee not being any help last week moving the ball downfield, it was up to Daniel Jones, who gave up the ball with an interception and a fumble to a beat-up 49ers defense. And I see this Sunday being worse for Jones on the account that his line will be going up against Aaron Donald and the Rams defensive line, and the receiving core of Slayton and Tate and Ingram will be going up against a hungry defensive backcourt who got embarrassed last week by Josh Allen.
Oh yeah, Jalen Ramsey's looking like he's back in Jacksonville again.
Yeah, so hopefully,
Well, at least the 2016 Jaguars.
hopefully for the Rams' sakes, he actually shows up and doesn't let anyone score this time. But with all that being said, expect Jones to be in a lot of pressure, and with that pressure will come with mistakes with Daniel Jones throwing interceptions, trying to run the ball, end up fumbling it, and Aaron Donald's probably going to be in his face a lot.
Okay. I'll talk about another quarterback to avoid then.
Let me hear
Carson
it.
Wentz.
Oh, yeah.
Wentz and the Eagles, they've been off to a really bad start this season. I mean, none of his wide receiving core is healthy. He had all those tight ends, and now he only has Ertz.
Right.
They have some no-name guy in there playing Goddard's role, basically.
It's good for Ertz.
Yeah. But he's facing the number 2 passing defense in the league. San Francisco's only allowing 187 yards a game through the air. That's not a lot at all, especially when they have a offense that slows the ball down and just takes minutes off the clock. With Wentz, Wentz has thrown twice as many interceptions as he has touchdown. His stat line is like 6 interceptions, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, him and Kirk Cousins are competing for most interceptions on the season, I guess.
Yeah, they're the Jameis Winstons of this year, basically. But all that and going up against that stout 49ers defense, like, I'm happy to know that I'm not starting him in any lineup this week. And it's already really thin with everything that's going on because the 4 quarterbacks that are postponed right now are mostly owned in every league with Tannehill, Mahomes, Roethlisberger, and...
Cam.
Yeah, Cam. Okay. The one that has COVID, sorry.
All right.
But yeah, so I can't touch Wentz this week. Not and be happy.
That's fair enough. I probably wouldn't have touched him after week 1, honestly.
I mean, he's another fellow Ginger, so I got faith in him that he'll turn the season around, but we'll see.
Very questionable with that receiving core.
What receiving core?
Exactly.
I'm just waiting for them to pull some Bobby Boucher thing and throw out the towel boy.
That'd be funny.
In state, tried it at the college, but they're a towel boy at wide receiver today.
All right. My next player to avoid is Kareem Hunt. Hunt is already questionable for this Sunday matchup against Dallas with a groin injury, so that should speak for itself alone. But even if he does play, I see him being limited in touches behind Nick Chubb this week. Baker Mayfield will be making attempts on throwing the ball downfield to his receivers much more than the check down to Hunt. Don't expect much from Kareem this week if he does decide to play. I mean, they're probably going to be trying to keep up with Dak Prescott mostly, and I don't see Hunt in there that much, especially with his groin injury. Even if he is in, Nick Chubb will probably just run it down their throats because they weren't really stopping Chris Carson before they hurt him last week. So it's kind of up in the air for Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, and the only way Hunt could really end up out there is if he is healthy and he does play, and then Chubb goes out there and rolls an ankle or something. Mm-hmm. Then obviously it's the Kareem Hunt show after that. But it could happen. It's football. I'm never gonna say I don't see it happening because he's a running back. He's the most volatile position there is. But yeah, I'm not touching. Well, yeah, I'm not touching Hunt this week.
Yeah, no, especially if Nick Chubb just ends up getting the hot hand and
and
scores early against Dallas and just takes off for those long 20-yard runs here and there, and
they give him 20 carries.
Yeah, and it's like where Kareem Hunt doesn't even touch the ball for the first half kind of thing. So
yeah, unless Chubb just runs out of gas.
Yeah, which probably won't happen.
No, he has a lot of endurance.
Yes, he does.
My running back to avoid is David Montgomery. He's going up against the best defense in the league right now. It's not even close. They're only allowing 93 yards on the ground and 132 yards through the air per game. I mean, you do the math, it's barely over 200 yards from scrimmage. They're the fourth best rushing defense right now with that 93. And even with Cohen on IR and the added targets, I don't think that's going to be enough when he's facing this defense. I don't think he's going to save your day with a touchdown either, seeing how the Colts have only allowed one rushing touchdown this season. So I know everybody was like, they're all hype on Montgomery after the last 2 weeks, but I'm hype on him for the week after, but not for this week against Colts.
Right, that's fair, especially after what the Colts did last week.
Yeah. I mean, they're still not as good as the Steelers against the run, but they're not much worse.
No, I don't. I know people have faith in Nick Foles too, but I don't see him being that successful against the Colts either.
Yeah, and Foles can only do so much for Montgomery. Right. I mean, he doesn't really look to target the running backs too much. He looks to target the tight ends on the check down.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you guys have someone for Montgomery.
Yeah. Good luck.
My last player to avoid is Emmanuel Sanders.
Okay.
I'm avoiding Sanders in any league I would have him in, which I don't, or any DFS lineup, etc. For one, he isn't receiving more than 5 targets a game in his replacement for Michael Thomas. He is a touchdown defendant option for you even if you wanted to throw him in your flex, but I don't suggest it. And his low amount of yards that he gets is with those low targets aren't just going to get it done for your team.
Aren't just going to get it done.
They just aren't going to get it done.
We have fun here too.
Yeah. But anyways, with how horrible the defense for the Lions is against the running backs, I see Alvin Kamara just taking over the whole offense, just much like he did last week. So it's not going to be looking good for Emmanuel Sanders on the receiving side.
Yeah, it's hard when your running back's getting 13 targets a game.
14.
Oh, 13 receptions a game, sorry.
And taking it for 153 yards.
I mean, I saw someone's post this week that he'd be the number 4 wide receiver in PPR this week without his rushing stats.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So my last player to avoid is Hollywood Brown. the game gives the Ravens, like I was talking about earlier, a script to essentially just be a track meet for the running back core and for Lamar Jackson. I don't see Lamar throwing the ball more than 22 times this game, and that's like the ceiling. I see it being closer to like 18, 19 times. Granted, he is going up against the Washington football team, but the football team has allowed the fifth least amount of passing yards this year. I mean, they haven't really played anybody worth anything really. But I mean, the Ravens are a run first team. They always have been. They always will be. Even Lamar Jackson runs the ball before he throws the ball half the time. So, all that being said, like if I'm a Hollywood owner, I'm benching him this week, but I'm definitely rolling him out next week against the Bengals. I mean, this week I don't see him getting more than 4 targets. If he does get more than 4 targets, I'd be surprised. And I'm just not going to count on one of those to be like a long target for a touchdown.
Right, especially if Lamar's overthrowing him now.
That and like, I mean, he just gave up last week against the Chiefs. You saw it in his eyes. You saw it on the sideline. Like, what happens if Washington goes out there and scores on the first 2? Is he going to give up against them too?
Right.
Like, I've lost a lot of confidence in that team after last week. I mean, I thought Lamar was a competitor, and hopefully he'll bounce back this week. And it was just an off week. Maybe something happened in his personal life we don't know about. But, oh God, if he keeps playing like he has been, well, not like, but if he keeps playing like he did last week, I could be looking to trade him very soon.
In like a dynasty or
in any format. Huh, okay. I mean, if he's not going to win me a season, I'd probably drafted him in the second or third round, depending on my format and redraft, and depending on my league mates. So I'm getting rid of him. Like, go out there and get a hurt CMC. Go out there and get a Nick Chubb. Go out there and get a Julio Jones. Like, just get rid of him. But give it another week or two, because it's still Lamar Jackson. He's still the number one PPR. I mean, the number one fantasy quarterback of almost all time.
Right, yeah. You never know what'll happen with that guy. Moving on with players to start. My first one is Tyler Boyd of the Bengals. He should be a start regardless if you drafted him, but even more this week, going against the weak Jaguars defense. Receiving 13 targets last week with how much Burrow throws the ball, it's obvious those targets are going to keep coming his way. And he's favored over Green to Burrow.
And he's on the field more than Green, too.
Right. And despite him not getting in the end zone or anything like that lately, except for one game, with Jacksonville giving up 2 touchdowns in all 3 of the games that they've played so far, I see Boyd at least getting 1 touchdown this week and Burrow just out there slinging it. So maybe Boyd gets 100 yards on 12 targets or so.
God, hopefully Mixon gets a touchdown this week.
Yeah, I'm hoping AJ Green too, but I mean, I think it's going to be Tyler Boyd's week where he just goes off, and it's not going to be fair for Jacksonville Jaguars at all. At all.
I'm going to talk about Hunter Renfrow for a minute. With first round draft pick Henry Ruggs down, he's doubtful for Sunday, so I don't really see them rolling him out.
And Brian Edwards.
Yeah, well, he's out. Like, there ain't no doubtful. He's out. So Renfrow's in store for another week of heavy targets. He finished last week with 9 targets, 6 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. He's proven over the last 2 years, like when he's on the field and he's given targets, he produces. Anytime he's been given 9 targets in his career, he scores a touchdown. I mean, that's only happened 3 times, but it's an anomaly you have to look at. So with that being said, week 4 could be another one of those 8, 9, 10 target weeks. He's never got more than 9 targets, but this could be the week he gets 10 or 11 with those 2 players out. And we saw even with Waller in last week, he only got 2 targets. So this could be Hunter Renfrow's week to like prove to Gruden, like, okay, I need to be out here on the field all the time. I am your shifty little wide receiver that can get out there and just run routes and catch the ball, like be a PPR machine.
Yeah, and it's shown that Carr loves throwing to him, so he definitely should get more targets this week.
Yeah, he's just that small-bodied receiver. I don't know if Gruden's afraid he's going to get hurt. I don't know what it is, but at this point, you got to put somebody out there. You can't throw the ball to Waller a million times a game. You know, they're going to start scheming for that, and that's going to leave Renfrow open. He's going to have no choice. Carr's going to have no choice but to throw it.
Yeah, well, hopefully for Renfrow owners it works out, especially if they're throwing him in there for a replacement and anyone that's been sat out this week for COVID. My next player to start is Gardner Minshew on the Jacksonville side.
You you called him by the wrong name.
Gardner Minshew?
The stash?
Oh, the stash. Yeah. Okay. Well, thought Gardner was his name, but okay.
No, he legally changed it last week.
Okay.
As he drank a natty light in the courthouse.
Although he showed struggle last week against the Dolphins, I see him bouncing back this week against the Bengals. It showed last week without his number one receiver that he struggles, and with DJ Chark being back in the lineup this week, I think Minshew's success is just going to go up. Well, with touchdowns at least. Even though he threw for 275 yards last week, he just couldn't get it in the end zone through the air. I mean, it just was embarrassing to watch, but the Bengals do let up a lot of touchdowns. I mean, even a struggling Carson Wentz went out there and threw the ball in the end zone and ran it in the end zone against the Bengals. So it should be no different for Gardner. And with all his weapons back, I think it's just going to be a shootout between him and Joe Burrow this week.
I could see that happening. I mean, the game has the path to do it for sure. Joe Burrow's been throwing the ball 45 times a game. Minshew's, up until last week, been arguably one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. So I expect a good game this week.
Oh, I hope so. I hope it's not some low-scoring game.
But it is the Jaguars and Bengals, so it could be.
Well, I mean,
it could be 7-10.
Well, look what happened with the Jets and Denver. That ended up being somewhat of a high-scoring game.
Oh, I know. I wish I would have hammered the over on that one. My next player is Kirk Cousins to start. Both teams are winless.
Wait. Kirk Cousins?
Yes, Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
Both teams are winless.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Cousins has been throwing a lot of interceptions.
A lot.
6 to be exact. But he's going up against the Texans defense that, guess what? Hasn't intercepted the ball yet this year.
Because they haven't played Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, but still. It's a game script for him not to throw an interception.
All right.
They've allowed over 200 yards a game and 2 touchdowns to the quarterback on average. So that's really good fantasy production, especially coming from Kirk. With all that being said, he has all the weapons around him to have a big game Sunday, especially with the emergence of Justin Jefferson and actually having another target there that's not, Adam Thielen. You can't count on the Great White Hope for everything. You just can't. So look for Cousins to most likely finish. I know he's going to finish in the top 20, but I'm really not going to be surprised if he finishes in the top 15.
Okay.
I don't see a top 10 finish. It could happen if he throws that third or fourth touchdown, or he falls into the end zone on a little 2-yard carry or something. But I definitely think he'll finish 15 to 20 this week.
It's very possible. I just don't have much faith in Kirk Cousins.
You got to have faith in a quarterback this week because you're most likely streaming a quarterback this week because of all the COVID. It's just everywhere.
Yeah, it's literally. My next starter is Ronald Jones. Rojo. With Leonard Fournette being out Sunday against the Chargers, it just leaves more opportunity for Jones, especially in carries. Maybe he finally gets those 20 carries he should been getting, even with Fournette being in the lineup and wasting his shares. But the Chargers were no match for the running back catching the ball out of the backfield. So with Godwin being out and all that, Ronald Jones could just get a lot of those checkdowns that Tom Brady loves throwing, get him out into the open field, maybe get him in the end zone a couple times.
A lot of that depends on if Bruce Arians will even allow Tom Brady to throw to Ronald Jones. As we know, his whole career, he hasn't had the best hands out of the backfield. But every offseason, what do you hear? Rojo's been working on his hands. Rojo's catching balls. So we'll see what happens. He does have, like you said, he does have the script to get those targets this week. But does Tom Brady and Bruce Arians actually trust him? Because, with his past, no. If I was the quarterback for the Buccaneers, I would not trust Ronald Jones. There would be a reason he gets 16 carries a game and he's only on the field 50% of the time. But eventually they either got to give him a shot or they got to let him go.
Right. Well, maybe he gets his shot this week with Fournette being out, but
I think he will.
Or maybe they get up early in the game and they just start handing the ball to Ronald Jones just to waste the clock and he does something with it. So you never know.
I think it's a good start this week. I see him finishing in the top 18.
I could see that.
Like, I mean, he could surprise us and finish top 12, but it's really hard it's really hard in that running back by committee. It just is.
Right. What about you? Got another player to start?
Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. So he's been productive for your fantasy team so far this year, with only being on the field 45% of the time. He's currently the running back 15.
Okay.
And again, he is only on the field 45% of the time. Granted, he did have that 1 week where he carried the ball 23 times, but even that week, he was only on the field 65% of the time. So he's going up against the Chicago defense that gave up 93 yards to Adrian Peterson's never aging-less self. They also gave up 80 yards and a touchdown to Gurley last week. So if those two like fossils can do that, I'm pretty sure Jonathan Taylor can find his way into the end zone and hit that 85 rushing yard mark. With all that being said, like, I think he's going to get 15 plus carries this game. I think he'll at least get 3 or 4 targets on that. I see him finishing RB12, RB11 with a ceiling of like RB8.
Yeah, he's definitely a talented running back.
He's arguably the most talented running back to come out of the class last year. Clyde Edwards just ended up in the best spot, but I think Jonathan Taylor's the best running back. I mean, he does hold all those records at Wisconsin for a reason.
That's fair. Now I definitely see him getting into the end zone. The Bears aren't too exciting on defense this year for sure.
They really haven't been for a couple years. I mean, they always have a good defense, but they haven't had a great defense for quite some time.
Yeah. But who cares about the Bears? Anyways, our streamers of the week.
Bears fans care about the Bears.
Yeah. Well, that's that. Yeah, streamers of the week. I got Nick Mullins for quarterback.
Boo.
Well, I mean, you got to throw in somebody.
I know. That's why I hate this week.
I mean, even though he's just a rental piece, he's going to be a great stream option for your team, especially having one of those quarterbacks out for COVID, like I said. And after last week throwing for 343 yards on 36 pass attempts, Mullins showed that he can get the ball downfield. He did only throw for 1 touchdown, but that's because the running backs did most of the work for the team. They were up a lot.
Yeah. But when you're throwing 346 yards, I mean, you're not always going to throw 1 touchdown. That's usually going to be closer to 3.
Right, and with Kittle and Debo coming back, maybe that does help him out a little bit, maybe getting in the end zone more than once.
Kittle could snag one of them for sure.
Yeah, and he definitely could repeat on a 300-yard game. So, maybe makes up most of those points that you're missing on your quarterback, if not all of them, depending on which quarterback you have sitting.
I mean, all 4 of them were good options that are sitting, to be honest.
Right, so maybe he just has a really boom week and you lucked out.
My first one's Robert Tonyan. For you people who've never heard his name, he's tight end for the Packers. I never thought I'd be talking about an Aaron Rodgers tight end for a streamer, but I mean, crazy, I know. But I am. But it's not really too crazy because Tanyan's been on the field 60% of the time. He's scored the last 2 weeks. He's caught all of his passes. Well, no, he only caught 2 passes in week 2 on 3 targets. But he went 5 for 5 for 50 yards and a touchdown last week. I mean, the Falcons have already given up 4 touchdowns to the tight end this year and 2 to former Green Bay tight end Jimmy Graham. So
Grandpa.
Yeah. If Jimmy Grandpa can get in there for 2 touchdowns again, Robert Tonyan could at least get 1, and he could get you that 2 and finish tight end 3 for the week.
Yeah, especially with Devontae Adams could be out, and especially with Lazard being out for indefinitely. Some of those targets could go to Tonyan.
Oh, yeah. I think they're going to go to Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, and Robert Tonyan. That's where most of those targets will go.
Yeah, and if Tonyan gets at least 3 more targets than he usually gets,
then he's up to 7-8 targets a game.
That's definitely going to help you out fantasy-wise because he is reliable for Aaron Rodgers. And if you all know, Rodgers loves reliable targets, and he will start looking to him more.
Could be that third year breakout tight end. Well, it's 4th year, but still.
I'm looking forward to it. Speaking of tight ends, I have Greg Olsen.
Old man Olsen.
Yeah, old Greg is
Old Greg.
Old Greg. He had a good game last
like Kahlua.
Yeah. He had a good game last week with 5 receptions on 6 targets for 61 yards. That's 12.2 yards per catch. So they weren't these little short dump offs or anything like that. However, he didn't get into the end zone, but that's because Hollister stole that target from him. But those 6 targets are a good sign coming from Russell Wilson, especially going against Miami this week. They'll be too focused on Lockett and Metcalf, most likely going down the field, so that just leaves the middle of the field wide open for Olsen to get even more than 12.2 yards per catch, perhaps, and maybe get in the end zone this week. So even getting those check down targets that he could get with Carson and Hyde being out, I doubt it's going to go to Homer all the time. So Olsen's looking like a great streamer at tight end.
Cool. I dig it. My next one's going to be Teddy Bridgewater. Again, been saying this a lot this episode, with so many quarterbacks out because of COVID, you find yourself in a spot where you have to stream a quarterback. He's a safe bet. He's a safe bet this week. The Cardinals are giving up 225 yards a game in the air. Kyler Murray's balling out, so you know it's going to be a shootout going back and forth. And surprisingly, Bridgewater's averaging 290 yards a game so far.
Really?
Yeah.
Even in that game, he threw 2 interceptions?
He's averaging 290 yards a game. Yeah. And he's hit the 300 mark once this year as well. So I see him hitting that 300 mark again this week. And he's only thrown 2 touchdowns. I see him throwing 2 touchdowns this week. So 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. You got another 4 or 5 scrambles for 35 yards. It's gonna give you a quarterback one right there every week.
Yeah, hopefully he produces.
Not quarterback one overall, by the way, guys.
No.
He'll be ranked either 1 through 12. That's what a quarterback one is for you people at home that think I'm crazy saying Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the number 1 overall quarterback scoring this week. No. He'll be in the top 12.
I could see that. Hopefully those touchdowns start getting spread out more than just Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on that here in a little while. We're going to talk about that, just a snippet about it.
Yeah, I have one more quarterback that's a streaming option for you guys out there. It's Ryan Fitzmagic.
Okay. The beard.
Yeah, the beard. Fitzpatrick will be facing the Seahawks, who allowed 400 yards and either 1 or 2 touchdowns in each game these last 3 weeks. And with Jamal Adams being out for the Seahawks, there will be no threat in the secondary for that team. And with Fitzpatrick's ability to air it out, it should be no problem for him to match those yards coming up to 400 and getting either a touchdown or 2. In the last couple of weeks, he's been able to do it, and it's just going to be even easier for him to do it against the Seahawks, no doubt. This just could be a high-scoring game with Fitzpatrick trying to keep up with Wilson to begin with. So, maybe he does go out there, throw for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's not surprising if he does that at all.
No, I mean, he's done it plenty of times in his career. That's the thing about Fitzpatrick. He'll go out there one week and get you 400. He'll go out there one week and get you 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he'll go out there the next week and get you 156 yards, a touchdown, and 4 interceptions.
That is true. He is a Brett Favre-esque quarterback.
He's nothing like Brett Favre. That was such an insult.
No, with the where he could go out, throw 3 touchdowns, where he could go out and throw.
Okay, Fitzpatrick does it every other game. Favre did it like 4 times a season at best. All right, okay, moving on to my last sleeper. Since we're already talking about Favre, we'll talk about the Green Bay Packers defense. They're owned in maybe 30% of leagues right now. I'm pretty sure when I checked this morning it was 29%. They've been getting to the quarterback. Like, they're averaging almost 3 sacks a game with 2, 2, and 4. They've got 2 interceptions. They've gotten at least a turnover in every game because the 2 games they had interceptions. The 1 game they didn't have an interception. They forced fumbled twice against New Orleans last week and recovered 1 of them. They scored in week 2. And they're playing against an Atlanta offense who's coming to Green Bay, who could be coming to Green Bay without their 2-star wide receivers. And if their 2-star wide receivers aren't there, that means Russell Gage is the one. Then you've got Hayden Hurst, and that leaves Matt Ryan throwing to 2 backups.
Or Todd Gurley.
Yeah. And when you've got 2 backup wide receivers out there, and you're going up against a pretty good pass defense, Jair is going to be locking up whoever the number one is. And on the other side of the ball, when you've got two backups like that, that means they're not as well in sync. That means Ryan's going to think they're supposed to run this route, and they thought they were supposed to run this route. Mistakes happen when you're throwing to inexperienced wide receivers way more than they happen when you're throwing to Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. Mm-hmm. So with all that being said, we could see Ryan go out there. Yeah, he could throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. But I think he's more likely going to throw for 200 yards, a couple interceptions, maybe a fumble.
That'd be kind of nice to see.
I mean, it's not out of the realm this week, especially. Like, you're not going to know much until we find out if Ridley or Julio are playing. And if Ridley or Julio are playing, this goes all out the window. Mm-hmm. But right now, tonight, I think Ridley's going to play, but I don't think Jones is. And if Jones isn't in there, I mean, yes, they've shown in the past that they can count on Ridley by himself to get it done, but not as good of a defense as the Packers, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Jair is definitely no corner to play with. He's all over the place.
Oh, he's definitely in the top 5 of the league.
Yeah. Any more streamers for you?
No. We're gonna move on to our sleeper of the week this week, guys. Mm-hmm. I'll just go ahead and start with mine since I'm already talking. Curtis Samuel. Like I said, I was gonna touch on this. He's going up against the Cardinals again. Kyler Murray's gonna put up points, but CMC's out. And in the past 2 weeks that CMC's been out, Curtis Samuel's got 4 carries each game. He's averaging 4.4 yards on those carries. If we have a game where it's going back and forth, we could see him get some more carries. But that's not even he's not even a running back, so that doesn't even matter. He's a wide receiver. That is averaging, guess what? 4 targets a game. Mm-hmm. So with 4 targets and 4 carries, you're touching the ball 8 times a game. And he's been in matches where games haven't really gone over 21, 26 points. This could be one of those games where it's 60-plus points on both sides. Like, you have 35-30, you have a 38-32 game, something like that. Like, we could see a lot of points scored in this game. And with that happening, Curtis Samuel's going to get more targets. Curtis Samuel got more targets than DJ Moore last week. Like, crazy things happen when you have a new quarterback coming into. Yes, DJ Moore is still the de facto number 1 there, but Samuel is good with the ball in his hand. He does good things with the ball. Like, he can make tacklers miss. He has a good spin move. He can hit you pretty hard too. I see Samuel finishing this week in the top 24.
Okay.
Like, you're gonna throw him out in your flex, and he's gonna get you 14 to 16 points this week.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna need somebody.
Yeah, we can't say this enough. COVID.
Yeah. So
many games that had so many fantasy studs. Really, I mean, we're missing Derrick Henry, we're missing Jonnu Smith, we're missing Tannehill, we're missing James Conner, we're missing Juju. That's from one game. We're missing the whole Chiefs offense. It is just not a good week for fantasy. I'm so glad that it happened in week 4 and not in week 12 or week 13 when it really matters. Right. So, but let's move on to your sleeper.
Yeah, and like we said, because of COVID, my sleeper of the week is Justin Herbert.
Herbert. Justin Herbert crab? No. Yeah. Okay, I tried. It wasn't good.
Going into Tampa Bay for his first away start, I'm excited to see what Herbert does against the Buccaneers and going against Tom Brady nonetheless. Herbert showed that he can get the ball downfield, especially to his favorite target, Keenan Allen, so far. And through the first 2 games that Herbert has started, he's thrown for over 300 yards so far and has been able to get the ball in the end zone both through the air and rushing on the ground. And with this talent to do that, it should be no problem against the Buccaneers defense. They haven't been looking too impressive to stop that kind of weapon. So I see him going out and shooting it out with Tom Brady and maybe coming out with a win.
Okay. I see him shooting it out. I don't know about the whole winning part, but shootout definitely.
Yeah, I mean, he was impressive competing with Patrick Mahomes, so he can do it with Tom Brady for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes didn't do too well the first half of that game, but then came out in the second half and played a whole fantasy stat line worth of a game in 2 quarters. So that's kind of not fair. Right. But I don't think that the Chiefs' defense is nowhere near as good as the Buccaneers' defense. So, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, they haven't been too impressive so far.
Only against the run, really.
Yeah, so...
And they're allowing like 80 yards against the run a game.
Yeah, and I see Herbert just throwing it all over the field to Keenan Allen for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, they haven't faced anybody like Eckler either yet, so...
Well, we'll see what happens.
So, for the last segment tonight, going to do the absolute unit of the week, guys. We've told you about this before. This is a player we see finishing as, RB1, a wide receiver 1, QB 1. They're going to finish in the top 12, top 10 for you. You can start them with confidence. And again, since I'm already talking, I'll just go into mine. Wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins, Devontae Parker. Now, I know he hasn't been what you drafted him to be. But before you go, oh, Jordan, he hasn't done anything for my team. He's had a hamstring injury, okay? With a hamstring injury, he's still averaging 12 yards a catch. With a hamstring injury, he's still catching 75% of his passes, and he fell into the end zone in week 2. He's going up against the absolute worst passing offense in the NFL, who's Well, they're not the worst passing offense, that's for sure. He's going up against the absolute worst passing defense in the NFL. They're giving up an average of 430 yards a game. That's absurd. That is disgusting. There are college teams that could come into the NFL and give up less passing yards than that. With all that being said, you're catching 75% of your targets. You're getting 12 yards a catch. If he gets 8, 9, 10 targets this week, catches 75% of them, you're looking at 95 yards and a touchdown or 2. Devontae Parker will for sure finish as a wide receiver 1 this week, but I would not be surprised if he finishes in the top 3. Like, I would not be surprised at all. I wouldn't be like, oh man, that's crazy anomaly week. No, he's going against the Seahawks. Him and him and Fitzmagic have an amazing connection. They have since last year. That's what is the reason where you drafted Devontae Parker, where you drafted him. And I just don't see any way short of him getting hurt or them somehow slowing the ball down and Myles Gaskin gets 28 carries. I don't see a road where Devontae Parker doesn't finish with 7 catches for, like I said, 90 yards and a touchdown.
Right, like I said before, there is going to be Fitzpatrick trying to keep up with Russell Wilson for sure, just like in every other game it's been with the Seahawks. But
let Russ cook.
And even last week, there were 3 receivers that did pretty decent against the Seattle Seahawks, or did decent against the Seattle Seahawks defense. So with Jamal Adams being out, Devontae Parker could be that deep target that he just gets a bomb for 80 yards or something like that, runs it in the end zone.
Now that he's healthy, I mean, he'll definitely stretch the field more than he has been. He's just been running little routes and stuff, dealing with that hamstring. They don't want to, make it even worse, but they also had to have him out the field. You can't count on Preston Williams for anything. Like, all you can count on Preston Williams is to drop the ball when it's put right in his hands.
Yeah, I mean, last week he caught a touchdown, but...
Last week was the first week in his career, as I stated, that he caught 100% of his targets, 2 of them for 7 yards and a touchdown. Wow.
All right, my absolute unit of the week is Mr. Darrell Henderson.
Whoop, whoop. I was trying to make a train. Didn't sound. I got to work on my sound bites.
But it's he's gonna once again get those majority touches over Malcolm Brown, especially with Cam Akers being out. Coming off an impressive 114 yards and a touchdown on 20 touches last week against the Bills. He should repeat in those 20 touches this week. Malcolm Brown wasn't too impressive. I don't see McVay really going to him that much. He's already said that he's favoring Henderson right now as long as Cam Akers is out.
I mean, Henderson's the better running back. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and if Darrell Henderson gets those 20 touches again, he could be getting to the end zone once, maybe twice this week. He's going against crappy defense in the Giants. They're in the bottom 10 ranking against running backs. So don't be surprised if this guy finishes in your top 10 this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see it happen, Henderson. Let's make some people happy.
Yeah, I know some people are relying on them just because, once again, COVID has taken out their running back.
Yeah,
So,
especially all those people that were relying on Brown.
right. Yeah. That's another story.
Different episode.
Yeah. Speaking of different episode, that will wrap it up for this one.
Yeah, we'll have a different one on Tuesday.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
We appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Don't be scared to give us some feedback. Leave us a review.
Ask us all those start-sit questions you got. I know you got a million of them with this week. You can hit us up on Instagram at the Fantasy Football Units or on Twitter at Fantasy Units.
It's not too late.
Yeah, you can also email us at thefantasyfootballunits@gmail.com. We're always up for answering you guys' questions. Just hammer those in until 5, 10, 15 minutes before tomorrow's matchups, and we'll do our best to answer all the ones that we can.
Yes, we will. Don't be discouraged, guys. We're all in this together. We'll get through it.
Everybody's screwed this week.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. With all that being said, good luck and be well, Unit Gang.
And come with us if you want to win and not get COVID.